We have lots to discuss in today's video, including some trade talk around teams like Pittsburgh and Vancouver. And according to Elliot Friedman, the Senators and Rangers have been having talks about a potential big trade. We'll discuss what might be happening there. Plus, we have some big updates, including a severe injury to one of the top prospects for Utah, Tig Iginla. Lots of other updates around the NHL as well. And plus, we have a head coach casualty again. Chicago has fired Luke Richardson. We'll discuss all the news and rumors coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to talk about here today. Of course, you probably saw earlier the news, and there is a dedicated video on the channel, so I won't go too deep into analysis here. But the Chicago Blackhawks earlier tonight did announce that they fired head coach Luke Richardson. Richardson was in the third season behind the bench with the Blackhawks after being a long-time NHL assistant. He was had a long playing career, got into coaching, was an assistant coach for a handful of teams. I know he spent a lot of time in Ottawa, Montreal especially, and it was really highly respected as a great assistant. Finally got the opportunity to be head coach in Chicago at the beginning of, kind of near the beginning of their rebuild, and now he's out of a job. I kind of feel bad for the guy, to be honest. I know that obviously the team has struggled. Even Connor Bedard has not been putting up Connor Bedard-like numbers this year. Things are not where they want to be. I mean, at the same time, the roster really isn't as good as it needs to be either, and I'm not really sure where Kyle Davidson kind of expected them to be. Maybe a little better than what they are, but I don't know if it's fair to be a ton better. But at the end of the day, Richardson is out, and they brought up their head coach from Rockford to take over. The plan is to let him have the role here on an interim basis for the remainder of the season, and then they're going to go through a proper extensive search in the offseason, of course, including their interim staff, and they'll review everything and to kind of determine where they're going to go. So they won't really have a full-time permanent head coach until sometime in the summer or whenever they're off season, I guess in the spring, depending on how quickly at the end of the regular season they make that decision. So apparently Richardson was also in the final year of his contract. There was a team option for next year, but of course they, at this point, the way things were trending, probably wouldn't have picked that up. But at the end of the day, Richardson is out. Like I said, I do feel bad for him. I don't think it's entirely his fault. When you have these rebuilding teams, I thought there'd be more patience there, but not so much. But check out that other video if you haven't already. I go through a little bit more details on the stats and everything, kind of analyzing that situation. All kinds of other roster moves, injury updates around the NHL today. We found out late yesterday that one of the top prospects from the 2024 NHL draft, the first ever draft pick for Utah, son of former NHLer and Hall of Famer Jerome Iginla, Tig Iginla, is out for the rest of the season. Apparently he had to have a pretty substantial hip surgery. Now, of course, he was recently with the Hockey Canada revealing its invites for the World Junior camp for their 2025 World Junior team. He was a notable omission from that roster, and I was shocked that he wasn't at least invited. And now we know why, because that's probably I'm sure they would have had knowledge of that, because this, obviously would have been something that's been being looked at here for a little while, I'm sure. So Iginla is going to lose a key year development, a key opportunity to hopefully go to World Juniors and all that. So that's really unfortunate for the youngster. I know lots of other notable names from the 2024 draft also left off of Canada's roster invites, including Zane Parekh and Carter Yakimchuk as well. So certainly some interesting decisions, you could say, from Hockey Canada. But Iginla is out for the year. We saw Patrick Kane return tonight with the Red Wings as they went into battle the Ottawa Senators. So Kane is officially back for them. Nikita Kucherov missed the game again tonight. The Tampa Bay absolutely destroyed the San Jose Sharks 8-1. But Kucherov was out. Nick Paul, though, did return. The Vancouver Canucks today, they announced that they've officially put Philip Hronek on long-term injury reserve. Of course, they were waiting to see if they had to do that cap-wise, and they did. Lekkerimäki and Cole McWard have been recalled. The Buffalo Sabres, for their game tonight against the Jets, were without defenseman Rasmus Dahlin. Dahlin apparently has been experiencing some back spasms, so they are optimistic it's only going to be short-term. But as Lindy Ruff said, that's the type of injury that's really difficult to pinpoint an exact timeline. But they're hoping it won't be too long. The New York Islanders are without Semyon Varlamov. He's considered day-to-day. They did recall Marcus Hogberg from the AHL. The Anaheim Ducks, they haven't announced anything yet, but last night there was it looked to be significant. We'll see when we get the update, but Trevor Zegras unfortunately went down again. Went down awkwardly, left the ice in a lot of discomfort, needed a lot of help. So I can't say for certain it's going to be a long-term significant injury, but it didn't look good and just looked really awkward. And I'm guessing it's something with ankle, knee, or something like that. So Zegras, I would expect, will be out a while, but we'll have to see once they give an official team update. Montreal had a great game tonight as well. Samuel Montembeault picking up the shutout against the Nashville Predators. Of course, after being named to Canada's roster for the Four Nation Faceoff, Montembeault kind of shows everybody why. And he had a great game tonight, and they were without Caden Gooley, who missed the game due to illness. I know with the quick sidebar here on Montembeault, I've seen some people talking, some articles popping up saying that Montembeault addition to Team Canada's roster might have been more politically motivated, given the fact that Hockey Canada likes to try to have a diverse group of players from across the country, and there's lots of players from Ontario. Obviously, they get some key top guys from the Atlantic region: McKinnon, Crosby, Marchand, etc. Some Western boys. Nobody really from Quebec outside of Montembeault. There's no French Canadians. Nobody from Quebec. And even Montreal, being a host for a lot of these games, some thought that it was important that the Canadians have a representative on the team. And I don't know if there's any politics being played in that decision. If you look at Aiden Hill and Jordan Binnington, that were the other two goalies, everybody assumes Montembeault will be the number 3. I'm not really entirely convinced that's the case. His numbers are just as good or better than Binnington and Hill. To be completely honest, the goaltender that surprised me the most, and I'm not really saying that it was Montembeault that took a spot, but I thought Logan Thompson of Washington would have been one of the 3 for sure. He's got better numbers than all 3 of those guys and has been playing phenomenal. A huge part of the Capitals' success this year. Stanley Cup champion with Vegas last year. I know Aiden Hill played the bulk of the games, but Thompson was part of the team and a big part through the regular season and into the playoffs a bit as well. So to me, Thompson's the more notable omission. But Montembeault, it's really not that surprising. Maybe there's politics at play, but I honestly think looking and comparing that he's kind of earned his way on there. I know early in the season there was lots of talk, would he be on the list here, and he is. So we'll see. We'll probably never know if there's a politics at play, but honestly, looking at the stats, it's not like it's that egregious, really. And it was coming from Alberta was the main ones complaining, and I think they like to see Stuart Skinner on that team, so I think that might be their motivation to make those accusations, so to speak. With Vancouver, I know some other notes as well. I know we're talking about some recalls with Lekkerimäki and McWard, but they are hoping Miller will be back soon, as in maybe in the next few days here or next game or two. Hard to say, but JT Miller, of course, as we know, has been away from the team on a personal leave for a couple of weeks. There was a big rumor about him maybe wanting out, which we discussed here. Vancouver has vehemently denied that report, so we'll see. But apparently Miller did skate yesterday, and there is some talk he could maybe be back. When it comes to Thatcher Demko, there's also talk that he could be back and play a game sometime in the next week or two. I think if it was a dire situation, he could be in there sooner. They're just buying all the time they can, so he's hopefully ready as possible when he does make the comeback. I know Nashville, of course, we know has been a tire fire completely, completely, I don't know how to really put this into words. They're just absolute garbage this year. After all that money spent in the offseason, they have been so far off from hitting expectations. It's crazy. All about talent, and it's just not gelling together. Another 3-0 shutout loss to the Habs tonight. Of course, they lost to the Leafs. Obviously Toronto's a good team anyways, but they just can't seem to score, which is by far their biggest line. They had a slew of injury updates today as well. They did get Michael McCarron back, but Ryan O'Reilly's hurt now. He's going to be out week to week.
That's not going to help matters. And Jeremy Lauzon's also been added to injured reserve too. So, again, not something that you really need to see and going to make things even worse there in Nashville. So, certainly going to wonder what's coming next there. I don't know if Andrew Burnett's in trouble or we're going to see Barry Trotz pull off a big trade, but something has to give there for sure. Of course, in Ottawa tonight, it was nice to see them honor what they used to call the pizza line, which was Daniel Alfredson, Jason Spezza, and Danny Heatley. Those three terrorized the NHL for 4 years, with Heatley having back-to-back 50-goal seasons in 05, 06, 06, 07. Of course, the 2007 years when they went to the Stanley Cup final and came as close as the franchise ever has to winning the Cup. Unfortunately, lost to the Anaheim Ducks in the Stanley Cup final that year, but they had a heck of a run. And of course, we know Alfredson has had his ups and downs with the organization in the past. All of the really, and you can point the finger, and I hate to speak ill of the dead or anything, but Eugene Melnyk really caused a lot of the issues with a lot of the former players, and really since he's been passed and the new ownership and everything, Alfredson's kind of rekindled his relationship with the team. I don't know if really Spezza really had anything bad. I don't think there was any bad feelings or anything with him, but we know Danny Heatley left the team on a sour note, wanting out of a trade after signing a 6-year contract and only 1 year into it, wanted out and forced his hand. And, at the end of the day, that really changed the whole dynamic of the Sens. I'm not saying that changed the whole trajectory here of the club, but did not help matters. Like, he was a heck of a player. In that chemistry that line had was unbelievable. So, it definitely had an impact for sure. And Heatley was asked in an interview, they did a press conference before the game, interview during the intermission as well. He said, what took so long to come back? And he's like, I was never invited. And then even Jason Spezza, him and Heatley were interviewed together. Of course, Spezza and Alfredson was busy behind the bench, so he wasn't as readily available to talk once the game started. But Spezza and Heatley did an interview together during the intermission, and Spezza said the same thing. He's like, I would have been back before, but it's nice to know that you're wanted and that you're invited. You can't just invite yourself and show up and say you're going to acknowledge and honor me. That's just not how things work. So at the end of the day, Michael Landlauer, since he's taken over ownership there in Ottawa, has done a great job at kind of rekindling the relationship with the alumni and the fans and everything, and things are certainly trending in a much better direction on that front. Of course, I picked up a big home win against Detroit tonight, 2-1 with Josh Norris scoring both goals, one with under a minute to go to secure the 2 points for the Sens, which was much needed. They have to absolutely do really great results here on this homestand, or it's going to be tough to get into the playoffs this year. On to some trade rumors here. One, I want to look at Pittsburgh and Vancouver, and then there is some talk around Ottawa and the Rangers. In Pittsburgh and Vancouver, there's some talk that, of course, we've heard the rumblings around Canuck forward Nils Hoglander. And apparently, the latest reports say that Pittsburgh is very, very, very interested. I know Pittsburgh apparently is also shopping Drew O'Connor, and there are some teams interested in him. But the Canucks are definitely looking for help on the blue line, especially. They were already looking for help before, and then they lost Philip Hronek to the injury, and he's going to be out for 8 weeks. So that's definitely a priority for them. If they can get Miller back from his personal leave, that'll be a big injection of a major forward coming back. That's kind of almost like getting a freebie, almost like getting a trade but not giving up anything forward, right? So the blue line is their area of focus. So again, you have to think like a Marcus Pettersson, Nils Hoglander, maybe that type of deal is something that we see. Kind of difficult to say. Either way, there's definitely a strong connection there. We know the Vancouver Brass are all former Penguins, and they know that team extremely well. So, a guy like Marcus Pettersson would probably be a terrific fit with what Vancouver is looking for. So, I would not be one bit surprised if they come into an agreement on that type of deal. We know Kyle Dubas is trying to accomplish a lot of youth, and they picked up Tomasino, they got Ricker McGroarty earlier in the year, and they keep adding younger players, some of which are a little bit of a project, but at the end of the day, if enough of these players can hit, they'll have themselves some good pieces to build upon for future years. So we'll see if the Canucks and the Penguins connect here on a trade in the near future, but it sure sounds like there's lots of mutual interest for sure. Elliot Friedman on his latest blog and 32 Thoughts podcast talked. Of course, we know the Rangers have been the hot topic, right? And he had a big segment on the Rangers talking about, basically everybody outside of Lafreniere and Fox are available. I don't think you're going to see a guy like Shesterkin moved. Some of the guys that have a no trade. I seen one report today saying that there was a Western Conference team showing a lot of interest in Mika Zibanejad, and maybe that's true. But Zibanejad has a full no trade. I think moving him would be very difficult. So as much as there might be some interest, I don't see it happening. We've heard, Kakko's name, Keandre Miller, Ryan Lindgren. You have to think even a top prospect like a Brennan Othman, first-round pick. I think everything's on the table if they can get some pieces that's going to help them be better. I think Trouba and Kreider are definitely available like we had heard before. But again, they're going to be challenging deals to pull off where they do have some trade protection. But Friedman went on to say, which kind of was a little bit cryptic in a way, saying that the Senators were a team that he knows had a lot of conversations with the Rangers. But he did not mention specifically any particular players. So a couple of things that we know. Here's what we know. We know that the Senators want help on the blue line. They have some injuries back there, primarily Artem Zub, and it's kind of caused their decor to not really be synced up here. I think they'd like to have some more depth so that their kids like Clevin and Bernard Docker, if they're not, if they have a bad game or whatever, like they don't have to play all the time. They can have a reduced role. At the same time, have maybe a better partner for Jake Sanderson while Zuba's out than Travis Hamonic. So just another defenseman who could stabilize things would be a huge piece for them. Now, to do that, they're going to end up having to give up something of value is the thing. I know in the intermission of the game tonight between Ottawa and Detroit, Bruce Garriock was talking about this, Rumours as well, and he says that the Sens would be willing, if they can get a strong enough piece coming back, to move a core forward, perhaps like a Josh Norris. And I couldn't disagree further with that sentiment. I mean, I think the only reason they're putting that out there is just because they know that the trade market is tough right now. There's lots of teams looking for D-men, and they get a real good one, you're going to have to give up something of value. But look at their forward group, to be honest. Like, the centerman that would replace him would be Pinto or Gregg, and they're both struggling right now. You would really have a major drop-off on that second line if he's not there. So to be honest, I don't think that they would really want to do that. And like as he mentioned, with the injury history to Norris and the long-term deal, big money on his contract, we're just shy of $8 million for another 6-7 years. Teams are not really wanting to take that on anyway. So, to be honest, he said, which is not surprising at all, teams are that they're going to be talking to for help on the blue line. If they want a solid top four defenseman, teams are going to be asking for guys like Gregg and Pinto. Now, doesn't mean that, and that's the thing is, he said that that's part of the reason why the Sens have not made a deal yet is because they don't want to do that. They don't want to move those guys. They're trying to figure out a way to get somebody without moving them. And that's the hard part, right? So, if you look at the Rangers, you're looking at, Keandre Miller, Capo Kakko. We also know that they'd like to add a two-way forward. Kakko does have good defensive metrics. So, I don't know if there would be a bigger deal involving like a Miller and a Kakko, but I mean, the price would be big for that. So I'm not sure that would work out, right? I mean, they have some draft picks. You have guys like Gregg, Pinto. I'm not sure who else they would have to put in there, right? That would be a tough deal to pull off. Or maybe it's just one piece. I don't know, but on the Rangers side, it would be players like Kakko and Miller to me that they would be most interested in. Maybe Braden Schneider, if I'm not sure he's available, but that would be the kind of the group to me that Ottawa would be looking at. And if I'm the Rangers, the players that make the most sense that you're looking at on the other side is probably Pinto or Gregg. So I don't know. I don't see an easy fit there. I do think that it makes sense that they're maybe having some conversations just to see, but I really would be quite surprised if anything materialized. And like I said, it's the reports from Friedman didn't specify any specific players. Garriock's report went into a little bit more detail, saying this is what he believes the Senators are willing to do, and this is what he's heard teams are asking for. And it's a tough market. They don't want to give away one of their main pieces for the future. They're trying to, subtract as little as possible, and that's the hard part. So we will see. Obviously, if Zub was healthy and could just be there, it would be a lot easier. And then what do you do when he's back, right? So that's the other
tricky part to all this is the cap and the hurdles you have to jump through. So I'm not sure that we're going to see anything substantial like that. Obviously, if they have a good homestand here and they put together some wins, you're probably not going to see anything major at all. I think if you do see a move, it's going to be more of a smaller depth move where you give up a draft pick or maybe a prospect that you don't know is going to make your team, and you get maybe more of a depth, like, quality third pair defenseman or something like that. But we'll see. This homestand will dictate a lot of what we see out of Ottawa for the coming weeks as Steve Staios decides what direction they need to go. Let me know your thoughts on everything discussed here today down and below in the comment section. We'll talk about it further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.